Good afternoon and welcome to Valley Views. I'm your host, Glenn Edison. We're certainly glad to have you. And as always, we want to thank our sponsor, BTC Fiber, for sponsoring our program. And as always, you can see our program on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's Channel 18. And also, we've started a new program, a sponsorship program, and our sponsors are Embers Ice Cream, Nickel Roll Antiques, and White Wagon Bed and Breakfast, all of Pikeville. So if you need some good ice cream when you're in Pikeville, stop by Embers. You want to check out the antiques, go by Nickel Row Antiques. And if you need from out of town, you're needing a place to stay, stop by the White Wagon Bed and Breakfast. Check them out. And today we have with us Randy Black, and he's the owner of Game Shack Retro and the Game Shack Cafe. Randy, it's good to have you. Appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
First, let's do a little background on your first store, the Game Shack Retro, and how that came about, and then we'll come into the other things.
Game Shack Retro was started by a man named Tim Dunlap around 14 years ago. He ran it for quite some time, until about right at 4 years ago, and he put it up for sale. And my wife was interested in buying it for the community, keeping it going, because he was going to sell out and close. And so we stepped in and picked it up for the kids in the community to have something to do and to have that. So that's how that came about. We bought that as it was pretty much. It was pretty much a shell that was left, but it gave us some sort of a platform to begin again and to make it viable for the future.
Well, I'm sure that there's plenty of kids in the Dunlap area, not only just Dunlap, but the whole valley, that like a chance to go to a store where they can find the latest games.
Video games and things, but we specialize. I changed the dynamic to it to retro for a reason. It used to be based off new game sales in the market for that, but I changed the dynamic for retro simply because I believe that it's better for children. It's a hand-eye coordination type thing. There are even doctors who send patients by that have tics and things, and as soon as they put their eye on the games, little system, their focus goes to that, and sometimes it helps clear things up, helps them focus better. So we focused more on the retro side of it. It's to help hand-eye coordination, and I realized that. So that's what I push more than anything, and it's a market that's slowly coming along.
Yes,
but it's coming back. Everything revisits its past, and that's where we put our focus in, and it's changing over the future. But yeah.
Well, that's neat. And I know you have some other things in your shop other than just the video games. What are some of those things?
We knew that the market, because of the new digital age where people can sit on their couch and push a button and download the game. So we changed that format. We knew that we couldn't combat that because it's just so much easier. So what we did is we went more into retro, where you have to have the cart, you have to have the game. Number one. Number two, we started selling things like Coke collectibles, John Deere collectibles, NASCAR collectibles, anything that we can put in there that keeps it viable. Just another piece of merchandise that sells. We also are launching Cherry Street Music, which is a guitar store to start off with, and eventually, depending on how well it does, it will pick up drums and band instruments and things of that nature. We'll just let it do what it does, and eventually we'll find a building for that. But that's the future for that. But we did that to diversify for the future so that we can hang in there for the kids.
Right. Well, your excuse me, your music store part. Now I know that's something new. What made you decide to add the guitars and things like that?
I had been in construction for 30 years, and I knew that I was going to retire because it beats your body up.
Yeah. So
what I decided to do was, about 15 years ago, I started to save for my future. So instead of saving, I did both, but I would buy guitars and put them away and store them and do that. And it got to where I had so many of them. But when my wife, when we bought this out, we had no idea that it would do what it did. So I was able to retire even earlier than that, and that kind of went on the back burner. And we're the third, fourth year in now, and I decided I was going to try to launch that as well. So that's how that came about. It's a love of mine. I'm in music industry for all of these years, and it's just something that I decided to do. But I was always going to do that. This is just a vehicle for that to start, to take foot and take root, and then I can move it and put it into another location eventually if it calls for that. Yeah. If it doesn't, it'll just be a part of the Game Shack, and it'll be in there and it'll do what it does.
Well, and people may not know that you're a musician yourself. Right. And you've written songs and things of that nature. So this is kind of coming in line with the Songwriters Festival, which I know you're a big part of.
Right, it is. The Songwriters Festival it's something that Cody McCarver, Janice Kaiser, myself, we're put together as much as we can. There's a lot more people that are involved, but putting acts in there. It's nice to have a focus on the writers themselves. Consider the show to be the best song you've never heard in a lot of cases. There are a lot of musicians, of course, they're going to be number one hits and songs like that the songwriters, they're in the background, they're hiding in the background. And you're going to hear those performed by the songwriters of those. And then you have a lot of songs that are just really great songs that you've never heard. Then you might hear some that'll rip your guts out that are really great. And you might hear some that are songs that you've heard on the radio before, and you're like, oh, that's a different take on that. Well, that was the way it was originally thought of. I was in the music industry from the time I was 8 years old till the time I was around 30 in Nashville on the Music Row, and it was not the perfect family life, so we call that. So I decided to get out of it and have my family. My children are all adult now, so I'm kind of getting a little back into it a little bit. So all this is coming together at a good time. But after 20 years of playing live and running around and doing all of that, I decided to be part of this. So there's a lot of people who get to come and see me play for the first time in 20 years.
Oh, good.
Which is really good. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, you're excuse me, this pollen and stuff's getting to me.
Yes, it's windy out there too.
Yeah. With the music industry, of course, beforehand there used to be just a few people that were musically talented around here, but now more and more people are putting together bands or either going solo and doing things, and there's a big interest in music.
Oh, absolutely, and there's a lot of stages here too. I can imagine within a mile radius of this place, we have the Coke Ovens area down there, where that's a natural amphitheater, a beautiful stage. Yes. Been there, that's the oldest one. Then you have the one at Harris Park. That's a nice stage, seats a lot of people, in a natural open environment. Then you have my place, which is the Game Shack Cafe. We have the upstairs area where we do live music every Saturday night for the local performers. Then you have the Yard, which is a local performance place. They drag people in from all over the country, which is wonderful. And they do outside entertainment there. Then you have the Mercantile, the Dunlap Mercantile, and now they're building a new stage for the what's that called? Valley Fest, a brand new stage. You could fit almost 300,000 people in this area and do music everywhere. And that's a lot of this is that there's so much going on. And you're right, there are a lot of uber talented people that are here in the Valley that have so much to give and so much to show. And we can put on a show ourselves, and that's what's wonderful about this place. There are so many good and talented people, and good Christian, decent people that are here, and there's all different genres of music too. We have country, rock, pop. There's a lady that's going to be playing in the cafe as our part at the 4:00 hour over there for Songwriters Festival. She's from Chicago originally, and she is a pop artist, and she's just really, really good. Her name's Alana Graylick. She's going to be a wonderful person to see live like that. But like I said, some of the songs that you've never heard of are some of the greatest songs. And it's going to be a wonderful experience to sit down and listen to how these songs came about, how they were written, and what they were about, and hear it firsthand. Maybe it's a song by Britney Spears or whoever. You get to hear a person say, "I was riding down the road in the car, and this came to me," or "I sit there and I hammered this out." There are two different ways. I'm the type of songwriter on both ways. I am a writer, as in it comes from the ether in a lot of cases, and I just write it down because it's playing in my head like a record. And then you have other songs where I have a little melody or something, and then somebody has an idea, and then I'll just sculpt it out. There are different ways of writing songs, but I tend to be one of the ones that just pick it up from where it's playing in my head, and I'm just writing it down. That's the kind of writer I am. It's not anything of mine. It's the Lord that gives it to me. So there's a lot of people that are like that.
And most people, when they hear songs, they remember the artist, but they don't know who wrote the song.
Right. And you have to get, I mean, back in the olden day, we used to break out the albums, and I mean, that was the thing. You'd stand in line and buy that album, and you'd take it home, and you'd open it up and turn all the pages, and it was just the coolest thing. And you put the album on and listen to it while you're reading through and all that. We don't have that anymore. Everything's digital download, so we've lost that. And of course, you would see the name of the writers that were in there. A lot of times, like the Beatles, of course, it was the names of the people in the band, but the bulk of the time, it was somebody that you had never heard of. Well, we get to see that live, and that's wonderful that we get to do that.
Well, I know one of the songwriters coming to the Writers Festival, he's the co-writer of One More Day, and my wife's cousin was the other writer.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's pretty neat.
Yes, it is, and it hits so close to home. We have a lot of good writers here that are here in the Valley. There are a lot of unheard ofs, and that's what I wanted to try to represent here is the locals. We have the big artists that are coming in, and that's wonderful that we have that. We're able to draw that in. Cody is such a blessing to us. But we also have the local talent here, and we need to recognize that that's there. And this is going to be a really neat thing for the community. I hope that everybody comes out and checks it out. It's going to be really neat. It's a very unique experience to have that, and it's something a little bit of Nashville right here. So.
Well, in the festival, will there be time for like a Q&A session on any of these?
Most of the way that I know that the group that I have, we're gonna do that. It's gonna be mostly guitar, vocal type stuff. Of course, Alana's a keyboardist. She's a classically trained keyboardist in her part. But I'm sure that if you're there, we're open to any questions that come about like that, because you're talking, we're trying to make it as personable as we can to the people who are watching. And I have had that happen to me in the past where someone's like, hey, what inspired you to do this, or where did you get that line from? And you get that, but yeah, that'll be like that. It'll be kind of fun, I'd imagine.
Well, I know I write on the other side, not a songwriter, but I write stories and things like that. And like you said, sometimes it could be a phrase or something that catches your attention, then you go, oh, and then you continue, you go right into that.
And the inspiration comes from that, absolutely. I agree with that. And writing is something, I believe it's a blessing and it's a gift. I was in Nashville for so long, you take it for granted that you have an ability to, I hear something and then I'm able to tool it down to what it is. I can take somebody else's music and turn it in and sculpt it into something that's presentable to the public. As an engineer and a producer, that was something that I did. I fell more in love with that part of it, the writing, engineering, and producing, than I did. And really, honestly, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, but when you sit there after you record several hundred people, you get every so often one will walk in and it's just like, oh my goodness, what did the Lord bring us? And it's just so amazing. They have such amazing vocals and such amazing talent, and it really sets you back to humble. To really, I'm not that good after all. So that's why I pursued this other things and decided to get behind helping people like that rather than being a part of it.
Right, because you never know who you inspire, because you might do something that you just do every day and don't think about it.
Right.
But you don't know that there's somebody out there going, hey, I like that guy because of what he did.
Right, that's true.
And so I know my little grandson the other day, he came home and he said, Pops, I said, I'm going to play drums. I said, really? I said, well, it's good to hear, because I played drums in school. And he was excited about that. So he'll be in middle school next year, so he gets to start in beginning band. And
well, that's really neat.
And he's really excited about it.
That's really neat. Now, this uber talent that we have here is so nice, and there are a lot of kids. I mean, there's some people that I get into the cafe. I let everybody try it once, and there's some terrible things that happen. And there's just as well, there's some super talented people that come in, and we're so blessed to have that here. You can come down and have a cup of coffee and watch an act, and it's so neat, and it's all one-on-one. And I love that part of it, that we have that here. And it's almost like an arrowhead of talent that we have here in this town. Like I said, we have so many stages. We could probably put an act on every stage and play like that here, and it's a lot. I see the future of Dunlap being a music mecca. It's just built for it. It really is. It's just built for it. And there's so much talent within the surrounding counties here that look at Dunlap and they see that this is a growing mecca of that. And I think I'm a little late with a guitar store, but the Lord owns it, and I'm just a steward of what that's how I look at all these things. I'm just a steward. I'm here, and He provides for us, and I'm just a steward of what He provides. That's all I do in all of these businesses.
Well, I try to tell people when I was teaching a lot of the children that I taught, that they didn't like it because they said there's nothing here to do, and I said, well, you got to go out and support the people that's here.
Right.
I see, or they're not going to want to do anything because it costs a lot of money to start a business.
It does.
And just like the music store, whether it's coming in and buying strings or buying an instrument,
Right.
it's still, you need
Right.
the business.
We need that to carry forward, and also we need to. I look at it as I look at it in a different way. Money should never be an object. It should be. You should be looking at how can I help someone. How can I make their lives better? How can I help someone? What type of instrument do you need? What feels right in your hand? Give them the knowledge of what they need, and give them something that they can use. It has a quality, and give them a chance. So if you see your grandson, he's learning to play the drums. Get him something that is better than just something that you buy in a box on Amazon and have delivered. Give him something he can sit down at and play a little bit and to beat on and bang on, and maybe there'll be something that's fruitful come from that. But it's about providing service. It's about if you're going to peddle a product, make it something that you stand behind. Make it something that you feel good about, that you would do. And some of the guitars in that place are a little pricey, and I understand that. But for the most part, you want quality. You want something that
Right.
I would play. And people ask me all the time. I've had Gibsons over there, and I've got Fenders over there, and I've got the cheapest ugly thing on the wall, and that's my guitar. It's the ugliest thing. It doesn't have a badge on the headstock. It says Ibanez or whatever it says. I don't care. I care about how it sounds and how it plays and how it feels in your hand. It becomes an extension of you. All instruments do that. And when you get past the point of the becoming an extension of you, you tool it. It's like you're driving down the road. The best way I can explain this is flow. You're driving down the road in the car, and you're driving for the very first time. And after a few minutes, you don't really pay attention to what your right foot's doing, but it's controlling how fast you're going.
Yeah.
But you're focused up here. It's like something, if you train your hands and you train your body enough to do that, then that becomes something that becomes muscle memory, and then your focus is on other things, and then that's how you grow with all of this.
Well, it's just like I interviewed some local artists just the other day, and both of them told me that they work on their artwork about 5 hours or more a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's a lot of time. But in reality, if you're going to try to be good at anything, you're going to put the time in.
You do.
We may not have because they were both retired, so they could spend more time, obviously, than maybe a student in school, which don't have that time. But they can still, it takes time. And that's, I told someone there's a thing called local talent, and then there's a thing called talent.
Right.
The talent is the guys that are recording in Nashville.
Right.
Those guys, and they're the ones that practice several hours a
Right.
day,
It's absolutely true. And it's muscle memory. It's a lot of that is that where you, it's anything that you do. It's like sports. Those boys get out there and they beat and bang and they catch that ball and they practice catching that ball over and over and over again, and what it becomes muscle memory to them, and then no longer they're thinking about or why? Or it's the focus goes somewhere else, to somewhere that's ethereal, that's there, and then they can focus on how they're going to get through this maze of people, and they're no longer focused on catching the ball. There are a lot of people who fumble that out and do that because they get so used to their muscle memory, and they get attached to somebody who's a little bit better than them, and they get run off the field a little bit, and they get off their game, and that's how that happens in football and things like that. But it goes with anything, muscle memory, where you pound on it and you practice it so much that you get really good at it. I'm sorry if I'm going off the rails with this.
No, that's all right, because when I mentioned local talent, there's a lot of people, like we all have our talents, whatever they might be. And there's a lot of people that are not musically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
And they love to hear the local talent because that's good to their ears, it's soothing, and they're looking at someone saying, boy, they sure are good. I wish I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hear the recording artists themselves,
mm-hmm.
of course, that's a whole nother ball
It
game.
is. It's a totally different ball game where you hear people that is their skill. That's you don't take your car to the guy, just anybody. You take it to somebody who works on it all the time. Same concept. These guys, that's what they do. They sculpt and skill, and they do this for a living. I've sit in many a writer room where you have just a group of people, and you sit around and you yak it up and you have fun and you do your thing. But by the time you're finished with that, you have a lot of talented people that have come up with something really great or something really terrible. It just depends on the year. But you can get and you do that, and you have a formula for that. And these guys, what they do. So it'd be nice to see them. It's going to be a really good thing to have them here live and to do that. So that'll be a really good thing for the community to see. And it's a step above. You're right. It is. And sometimes if you see it like that, okay, you have a performer, and you have people who are performers, and that's what they're really, really good at, to presenting that thing that you've handed them, and they perform it, and they've got the look and they've got the feel, and that's all good and fine, and most everybody that we know is like that. And then you have the people who wrote and sculpt that music. It is in their own right. They are just as talented, and even more so because they are the ones who came up with the idea of the whole thing. And like I said, I'm not kidding when I say that it comes from the ether. It comes from the Lord or wherever it comes from, and I just write it down. In a lot of cases, some of the best songs that were ever wrote that I did, I just wrote the things down. They were playing in my head. In the entire score, the lyrics, the music, the whole thing, and I'm just writing it down, riding down the road in the car.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and it comes to me like that, and those are some of the best songs that were written. I can't say that I wrote them. I wrote them down. And then you have other songs that like I said, I had an idea for, and you can sculpt those out and you can make them.
Right.
Kind of neat. It's a really neat process. Most of your prolific writers will tell you that's where they get their inspiration comes from somewhere they don't know.
Right. I know one of my favorite stories that I've written, it came to me one night during the middle of the night. I woke up and that was just on my mind.
Mm-hmm. So
I jotted it down just so I wouldn't forget it.
Right.
And then I went back to it.
That's cool.
After I woke up, I had more of my senses
That's
together.
so cool when that happens, though, isn't it? That we're blessed with that, and some people have radar up for that, and their little antenna up, and they can take it in. And some people, it's like I said, writing altogether is a very creative thing, but you also become a master of your own of what you do, because that's what you do. So you're like, well, I'm stuck on this. Well, you can think your way out of that because that's what you do. You become a craft to you, and you become good at it.
And that story of mine was about 40 years ago, and I'm still working on it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm carrying it out. I've changed it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
we can't wait to get to it. Finish it up so we can all read it.
But well, I'm really glad that you're doing this. I know there's a lot of people behind the Songwriters Festival,
Right.
And and I should push for Valley Fest as well, because they're going to have a bunch of good artists here. I've heard the Charlie Daniels Band. I used to listen to Creedence Clearwater when I was younger, and so when I saw the lineup, I thought, man, that's some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. It is. That's really good stuff. And although Charlie Daniels is not around with us anymore, you can bet your bottom dollar that they put an act together that sounds exactly like that, and you have the bulk of the original band that's there, and it honors them and it keeps them employed. And that's a totally cool thing that they do. Same thing for Credence. You won't ever hear John Fogerty there, but you'll hear Credence, and it'll be at the finest it can be.
Yeah.
And it's good because it keeps those boys, it keeps them employed. They're really good at what they do, and you won't be able to tell the difference. It's usually the way that goes. And it's fine that we have them here. It's really neat. They're down here in Dunlap, Tennessee. I love that.
That's the thing. I thought, who would have ever thought?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Charlie Daniels at Riverbend.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that was a big thing, because they were big.
Mm-hmm.
That was back when there's, several days long.
Right.
And of course, they had more money than Valley Fest.
Right.
But now with that going on, and with things happening with Valley Fest and getting more good artists, then that turns out pretty good for us.
Oh, it does.
Brings in the people.
It does, and it like I said, I can see this town in just a matter of a few years becoming a music mecca. There are a lot of people. I mean, what is it? What's the name of the band that was here last year? Little Texas.
Yes.
That's insane. I mean, that is a great group. We have so many great artists that come in from all over the country to here.
Yeah.
And we're so blessed to have that, and they love it here. They love it.
They do.
When they get here, they don't want to leave. They love it here.
We need to have our own little music row, I guess.
Yeah, I think. Well, and it's becoming that. I like I said, I was in that mix for a long time, and there's a familiar feeling here that you have rubbing elbows and arms with people of the same. They're like mind. It's like the good side of it. It's like all the good things that were in Nashville. We have that here. All of the good things and none of the bad. And we're so lucky for that. But like I said, you could park 7 bands at one time in here and have a Dunlap-palooza.
Yeah,
would be really cool.
Have our own Bonnaroo.
And what's cool is because it's not only the people in the town and the people in the valley that support it. It's also the people who are here that are in positions of authority. The mayor and we have people that are here that are just as involved and just want to be part of that, and that is so nice to have, where you have everybody in the community is all in a forward movement toward it, and it's really nice to have that, to have the support of the city officials and to have that here. So it's nice.
Well, changing from the music side, because I want everybody to know in case they don't. I know with the Game Shack Cafe, you open early and that's to allow students to come in if they want to do their homework and everything, and that's a neat thing to think of.
That over there is an anomaly. We rent the building, the retro building, and we bought the building across the street to put the game store in. And my wife was like, "We added value. Everything's added value. You have to have something that's moving forward for the future," because we knew that this came. So she's like, "Let's put a coffee house in here." I'm like, "Yes, ma'am, let's do this." So we spent the money and did it, and then it didn't take 3 months, and she had me out of there. She was like, "You need to move that back across the street," because it was growing, and it was a lot of the community really supported it, and it did really well. And she's so creative as well. But yeah, we open at 5 in the morning for people that are on their way to work or kids that want to come in and do school. They can come in and get them coffee or a smoothie or a cappuccino or. It really, I mean, just an abundance of different things. Now we're serving a little food in the mornings. We're doing test bakes because we're starting that. So we're beginning to do that as well. So it's a matter of time. And then we stay open during the week, and we open later on the hours on the weekends. But it's just, we're taking it only as fast as we can handle it, because we're a family business, and so we're only taking it as fast as we can go. And it's humanly possible, because we're human, and we have to. And I'm there a lot of times. We're out 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, just working, and we're trying not to do that to ourselves, but it does happen. There's so much that is there, but hopefully there will be fruit that comes from it in the future for not only us but the community. Those drinks over there, those were created. A lot of those drinks were created by the customer. By our local people coming in and saying, "Hey, let's try this, what this tastes like," and then she'll make it up, and then we'll say, "Okay, well, you have to name that." And then so they come in there 20 years from now and say, "Well, I want that, whatever that was," and it's neat that she's involved the community in it. Like I said, I can do nothing but support her and try to help her as much as I can to have her dream and to do that, and she's doing a really great job. But Sarah's just a blessing And it's
Yes,
for the
yes.
community as well. We're so lucky. We're so lucky to have that little place over there. And it, like I said, my part was I'll build it because I'm a contractor. I'll build it and I'll do whatever you're going to do, and I'll help her and support her and stay out of her way because she's the juggernaut. She can get it done. But yeah, she's growing it, and like I said, only as fast as we can do.
Well, I know when you put others first, put yourself last, good things come.
Well, like I said, I'll say this and I'll say it again. I am a steward only. I own nothing. The Lord provides this, and we are stewards of what He's provided, and that's all we do. We look at the opportunities that He provides, and we try to nurture whatever is good, and that's all that we do. We probably shouldn't work like we do, and that will change in the future. But you have to, in order to make a job opening, you have to work that position. You have to create that position yourself, and get in there in your body and work that all day for 8 hours or however long it is to create that position for that position. So you have to generate enough dollars to make that position work. And then you can step back and then hire somebody to fill that position. And that's where we are with a lot of this, is we see the growth, and we'll both get in there and we'll do our thing and we'll help and we'll grow a position. And when it starts to get to the point to where we can afford to pay for a person there because of what it's created, then we'll let somebody step in and there's you another hire. So that's how jobs are created in most businesses. Is you get in there and you do it yourself.
Right.
You have to do what you have to do. So that's what we do. And I believe that we're at a point now to where we're happy with the way things are, and hopefully it grows and the community continues to shop there, and it'll be good.
Well, I see a lot of posts from people at Game Shack. They'll say have their coffee.
It's
or
good.
whatever
It's good, and the reason why is because none of it comes out of a box. Everybody's so used to going to their favorite coffee house, and they pull the Cisco truck up with a big old box of powder, and they poke it in a machine and press it out, and it ends up being it's the same thing every time. You do have the consistency there. But we make everything fresh. We have fresh chocolate, fresh coffee. Our roaster is up in Knoxville. They make that the day before. They roast that the day before. We get those fresh beans, and we put those fresh beans in that machine, and it comes out at the grind that we do. We grind our own coffee there, and espresso, and we do that. We're launching our own coffee brand over there as well. So
really?
We're having that specialty made. So we're tooling with the beans and the roaster, and they're telling us, we're saying, well, no, this needs to be a little bit more chocolatey, or it needs the flavor of this. And then they're working with us, and we'll come up with our own brand of coffee by doing that, and then they'll provide that for us.
Well,
it's Honeybee out of Knoxville, and we wanted all local people involved. So it's kind of a neat little deal. But all of that is fresh milk from wherever we can get it. The Walmart or local, wherever we can get it. Everything is fresh every day, and that's why that tastes so good. People are not used to that.
No.
They're not used to walking in and getting something that's fresh and tastes that great. So yeah, and it's basically, if a latte is a latte is a latte, but if it's fresh, it's a difference.
Yeah, it's a difference.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, is there anything else you'd like to mention before we close?
No, I appreciate you having me over, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and giving us a little light on what we do. Is there anything that we can do to help you in your community?
Well, we support each other, and and again, folks, you can see our program on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's Channel 18. And last, we don't forget our sponsors, Ember Ice Cream and Piebald. They have several flavors and milkshakes and food items. Nickel Row Antiques. If you like the antiques, get up there and see them. And then White Wagon Bed and Breakfast. So if you're visiting in the area and need a place to stay, check them out. And until next time, have a great day. Hey everybody, this is Glenn Edison from Valley Views. We appreciate you watching our shows, and we would like for you to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, as well as like and subscribe to our YouTube page.
Brought to you by Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, your full-service telecommunications provider right here in the Sequatchie Valley.